Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
Support comes from the University of Alaska College Savings Plan, helping you and your child save for college every step of the way, from diapers to diploma. More information at uacollegesavings.com.
The National Weather Service.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome to this Thursday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Dave Percy, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and I'll be hosting today's show. Up first, again, the show times, 5:30 for APB and ARCS, with 5:30 also the time for the interior there, KUAC 9.4, 360 north, 7:30 p.m. But remember, on the weekends, that doesn't get updated, so you'll be seeing a Friday show both on Saturday and Sunday. And then for Alaska Public Media, 5 a.m. the following morning, not Monday, the following morning. Yesterday, not too bad of conditions here along the west coast out in the Bering Sea. Front really falling apart, a weak front falling apart, pushing into the central Aleutians, and better weather back to the west. And we had an elongated system here, main low dropping southeastward, and front across Bristol Bay all the way over and is lifting north of the southeast coast there. Followed in with some showers. Otherwise, we had some breaks over the eastern interior, more in the way of drier conditions with some sunshine here over the Yukon River Valley area on out to the Delta, and then more moisture up over the northwest. For today, you can see that pushed eastward, got a trough axis right through here, dropping southward. Southwest flow in advance of that are on the eastern side of the trough, responsible for this area cloudiness and light snow from the eastern Arctic coast southward into the Fairbanks area, on down into the Susitna Valley. Rain now shifting into northern Cook Inlet, such as Anchorage, a few breaks over the Copper River Basin, and clouds and showers for the southeast coast, with some more there pushing in toward Dixon Entrance. Otherwise, back out to the west, clearing out. There were some clouds, but it was a dry day for Kodiak Island and much of the Alaska Peninsula and Bristol Bay. And then several bands, troughs, caught up in some westerly flow, bringing flurries there and areas of light snow to the Arctic coast. And then the next system here, the outer edge, just reaching the eastern Aleutian, or the western Aleutians, and extending eastward toward about Amchitka Island, and then very isolated showers here across the Aleutians, along with some clearing periods. Picked up a little bit of rain today at Unalaska. And on the chart, here's that trough. Actually, the upper trough is back to the west here, and this is in that area of southwesterly flow, south-southwesterly flow, but everything's gradually shifting eastward. And again, that brought the precipitation into the northern Cook Inlet area. And that was mostly in the form, or it was all snow up at Talkeetna, where they picked up about 1 to 2 inches this afternoon, and that area extending northward up to the Brooks Range, and then areas of light snow and fog back to the west and northwest. Not much out along the Arctic coast there, and then that's slipping down northerly flow there around that high over the Russian Far East, pushing down through the Bering Strait, St. Lawrence Island, and then some lighter stuff there, mostly north of the Pribilofs. Otherwise, high pressure, pretty light winds over the Bering Sea and much of the Aleutians and Alaska Peninsula, with showers here across the, mostly around Unalaska today. And then also this band of moisture bringing anywhere from up to a ½ inch of rain, Annette and Ketchikan over to Klawock, and then lighter amounts up to the north. Scattered showers ending this afternoon along the North Gulf Coast, but precipitation amounts pretty light here. The heaviest narrow band of that light snow which tonight could bring anywhere from 1 to 3 inches of snow by tomorrow morning here from the Kenai Peninsula northward, but it all gradually shifting eastward and then drying out, just mostly cloudy, a few scattered snow showers back to the west, and areas of snow up here along the Arctic coast, with rain pushing back in, kind of another front developing on this low center west of the Queen Charlotte Islands, and that'll spread more rain into the southern panhandle, which will be kind of a mixed rain and snow situation up to the north, but amounts will be on the light side. Then just some isolated showers here near Kodiak Island, but increasing northwest winds from Kodiak back across the Alaska Peninsula and up along the Alaska Range. And then out to the west here, looks like that front elongating, the low center hanging back to the west. They're still off the chart through tonight, but rain should at least push over to Adak Island. Pribilofs, look for some scattered rain and snow showers this evening, or actually throughout much of the night tonight. But for the eastern Aleutians, Alaska Peninsula, Bristol Bay, it looks pretty dry, as well as the Kuskokwim Valley right up in toward Kobuk and Selawik, and those areas. Kotzebue should be precipitation free. And then for tomorrow, again, westerly flow here coming over the top of the high. It sets up over the northern Bering Sea tomorrow afternoon. That'll keep areas of light snow and possibly fog, with definitely cloudy skies from the Brooks Range on out to the coast throughout the day tomorrow. And looks like the weather symbols fell off this graphic, but we'll call it snow here, areas of pushing eastward, so ending and improving from west to east throughout the day tomorrow. And that'll probably translate into some pretty good clearing here for southern Cook Inlet, with downsloping winds coming off the Alaska Range. Definitely will shut the precipitation off, gradually hedging eastward. So it could be some snow still going on over northern Cook Inlet and the Sinton Valley to start the day with, but that'll be ending throughout the afternoon and pushing eastward, Copper River Basin up into the eastern interior. Periods of snow, but amounts on the light side, 1, 2, 3 inches, maybe a little bit more. Some areas will see less than that, but nothing too terribly heavy there. And then this low off the Queen Charlotte, that keeps pushing troughs northward, or bands of showers, heaviest of which will be down over the southern southeast coast. They'll be much more scattered and a little more mixed up to the north. Then we've got some snow showers here on the Bering Sea side of the Alaska Peninsula, on back to the northwest, and still some spotty stuff out here over the northern Bering Sea with high pressure, though mostly dry. Winds definitely light all through this area, but on the increase here, again over actually south of the mountains, south of the Alaska Range, getting pretty gusty there for Kamishak Bay and on down toward Kodiak Island. And this front very weak now, stretching eastward, just some light rain associated with that, and the winds not even gale force there, and as it pushes northward they'll be diminishing over the Aleutians throughout the afternoon. And then for the first day of the weekend, Saturday, shaping up like this. We've got a weaker low now off the southeast coast, but a trough right through here keeps a pretty good chance of shower activity, again mostly over the southern or over the central and southern areas. While up to the north, drier conditions, building gradient along the North Gulf Coast, high pressure shifting over the eastern interior. So pretty gusty north to northeast winds from the Copper River Basin into the Valdez area and through the Copper River Delta, and even the northern panhandle. Look for those winds to come up a little bit. No big increase in the forecast there, since most of the gradient will still be up there in the Yukon. But pretty nice conditions, cool and dry here for the southwest coast, northeastward. A little breezy there for Kodiak Island. In fact, 40 knot northwest winds are in the forecast here for the marine zones down there into the Barrens, but lighter winds under the ridge axis here for the Alaska Peninsula, again up along the coast. And then that kind of west-southwest flow coming over the top of the ridge. A lot of moisture caught up in that, so up in this area, look for cloudy skies with scattered snow showers across the entire area there up to the Arctic coast. And then farther out west, got another pretty strong front pushing eastward here into the central Aleutians. South to north flow, that'll edge in toward the Pribilof Islands. Late in the afternoon there for both St. Paul and St. George, you could see gale force winds already in the picture, if not by late Saturday afternoon, then definitely by Saturday evening. And same sort of situation here for Nikolsky. And probably looks like gale force winds, at least for a short period of time, for the central Aleutians. And that extending all the way back. A little bit of a decrease behind the front, but these winds increasing due to the low center here just northwest of Shemya. Well, temperatures across the southeast coast today were mostly in the 40s, although Annette pushed up to 50 this afternoon, 47 there at Sitka, and a 46 up at Skagway. Yakutat had 47, 49 Cordova, Valdez 45, just 39 there at Palmer. Kenai 41, 50 at Homer, about 50 degrees here for Kodiak Island, 30 at Gulkana. North of the mountains, all in the 20s, with a range from 21 at Fairbanks to 26 at Northway, and then back to the northwest, mostly in the mid-20s. Drop it down to 19 at Fort Yukon, same temperature also there at Arctic Village, 18 Anatuvik. And kind of a range there along the Arctic coast with Barrow sitting at 30 degrees, while Dead Horse had 16, and then back up to 33 over Cape Lisburne. Otherwise, lower to mid-30s here over the northwest, Kotzebue Sound in that area, 36 in Nome, 30 degrees even, both at McGrath and Sleepmute, with Amonic here at 35, 33 at Gamble, Macoriac up to 41, lower 40s for the Pribilofs with St. Paul at 43, and 40s here for the Alaska Peninsula, cooling into the upper 30s over northeast Bristol Bay. King Salmon at 38 degrees, as well as Dillingham, also 38. Cape Noonan was around 33. On Alaska, 44 degrees, upper 40s for both Adak and Atka. And the lows for tonight, single numbers and teens here, but mostly above 10 degrees up over the interior, down, then south of the mountains, lows in the 20s, with temperatures near or into the lower 40s for the southeast coast. Lower 30s here for the Bering Sea, St. Lawrence Island, to mid 30s for the Pribilofs, and 40s in the Aleutians. Highs tomorrow, upper 40s from Shemya to Atka, lower 40s for the Alaska Peninsula, cooling into the upper 30s for Bristol Bay, 30s south central Alaska, 40s North Gulf Coast and the Panhandle, 20s for the Tanana Valley, milder out to the west there for the Yukon Delta, mid 30s there, and coastal areas of the Seward Peninsula, teens through the Brooks Range, 20s for the North Slope and the Arctic coast. Flying weather tomorrow morning again, this area of moisture gradually shifting eastward here, so IFR starting the day out, say Palmer and Tanita Pass, extending northward to the southern slopes of the Alaska Range there, with good areas of marginal VFR over the interior. And from the Brooks Range out to the eastern Arctic coast, expect IFR there. And IFR in the forecast here for the southern Panhandle, improving as you go north into Lincoln Island, Glacier Bay. You should be into the VFR, definitely VFR, Kodiak Island, up across a big portion of the southwest interior, as well as the Bering Sea. And then you have to get out almost to Atka to get into some marginal conditions, and then IFR towards Shemya and Attu. For tomorrow afternoon, this area now over the Copper River Basin into the 40-mile country, hanging on to the northeast part of the state, and then IFR coming back onto the coast there from Barrow down to Cape Lisburne, marginal VFR through the strait to St. Lawrence Island, but VFR here over much of the Bering Sea. Alaska Peninsula looking really good, and again, VFR over Cook Inlet, Susitna Valley, northward by afternoon, and IFR building out over the western Aleutians and the southwest Bering Sea. As far as passes go, Anatuvik, marginal VFR. Adigan looks pretty marginal as well. Lake Clark and Merrill, though, will be VFR, and same forecast for rainy, windy, marginal VFR, possibly becoming VFR late tomorrow afternoon. But both Isabel and Mentasta expect IFR for both of those passes the entire day on either approach. And for Tanita, starting out IFR, improving to VFR by the afternoon or into the afternoon. And for Portage, again, look for a gradual improvement in conditions there, starting out IFR. And for Chilkoot and White, marginal. Freezing levels at the surface here all the way to the southwest coast for tomorrow morning, up through the Bering Strait, and 2,000 feet here right around Yakutat to about 4,000 feet, Elfin Cove, down across toward Dixon Entrance, and 2,000 feet here now just west of Falls Pass there, and then gradually rising to 8,000 feet over the western areas. Icing, look for some areas of above about 6,000 feet here, pushing eastward to AKwx, back to the northwest, lifting north of the western Aleutians, and an area icing, that slow-moving area of moisture with the snow. Copper River Basin, North Gulf Coast, eastward, and then extending westward there north of the Berks Range, and mixed icing here for the Panhandle, mostly above about 5,000 feet. Trough of low pressure, actually the trough digging southward here, starting to get a center developed late tomorrow afternoon there, just off Kodiak Island. Stronger jet to the south of this system up to 120 knots. Otherwise, higher pressure building in behind that. And for 9,000 feet, northerlies 15 to 30 knots over the western interior, right across Kodiak Island, the Alaska Peninsula. Lighter winds over the eastern interior. Winds not all that bad for the Panhandle. Will be strongest out along the coast. Big high here now into the northern Bering Sea. Westerly winds 20 to 30 knots along the Arctic coast, with lighter conditions south of that. And then southeasterlies 25 to 30 for the Aleutians. 3,000 foot winds, much the same pattern. Good northwest flow here from the Kilburk Mountains, 35 knots there across Kodiak, lighter up along the North Gulf Coast, northward to the Berks Range, and southeasterlies 15 to 35 miles an hour for the Aleutians. And again, the stronger winds will be right along the coast or just a little offshore here for the Panhandle, lighter conditions over toward the border. For turbulence, could be some moderate chop down that way, especially for Prince of Wales Island, over to Annette Metlakatla, and then moderate turbulence, mechanical turbulence, those winds across the Alaska Range, especially for Kodiak Island into Kamishak Bay, and locally over the Kenai Peninsula. Could be some areas of light to isolated moderate turbulence to the central and eastern Arctic coast. And after Stargazer, I'll return with a look at the marine forecasts.
Fall Sky Saga.
Hey there, stargazers. I'm James Albury, director of the Kika Silva Plow Planetarium in Gainesville, Florida.
And I'm Dehne Regas, astronomer for the Cincinnati Observatory. We're here to help you find your way around the sky tonight. The ancient stargazers had a lot of imagination.
When they looked at the stars, they connected the dots and pictured people, animals, rivers, and even entire scenes.
And in the fall evening sky, if you have an ancient imagination, you can see a king and a queen,
A prince and a princess,
two monsters, and
a flying horse, who's flying upside down, by the way.
it's going to get crowded up there, but we can walk you through it.
Okay, we have our sky set up for 9 p.m. facing northeast. About halfway up in the sky, you'll find the 5 familiar stars that look like a letter W.
This is the beautiful Queen Cassiopeia. Now stretch your imaginations a little and see if you can make out a queen of Ethiopia sitting on her throne.
Sorry, I guess I don't have that much imagination. But once you find her, she is the central character of our story.
Legend has it that Cassiopeia bragged about her beauty way too much. In fact, one day she said, now get this, she said, "I'm more beautiful than all the mermaids in the ocean."
Yikes. That got Poseidon, the god of the sea, super mad. He confronted Cassiopeia's husband, King Cepheus, whose 5 fainter stars are up and to the left of his wife. The stars look like an upside-down house.
For insulting the gods, Cassiopeia had to give up her one and only daughter, the Princess Andromeda, as a sacrifice. Basically, they had to chain Andromeda to a big rock in the ocean and let Poseidon's pet sea monster eat her.
You can find Andromeda to the right of Cassiopeia. Her stars look more like a skinny letter A.
A for Andromeda.
Exactly. Andromeda also houses the closest spiral galaxy to our Milky Way. It's called the Andromeda Galaxy because you can find it right near her hip star. Of course, if you live in a light-polluted area, you won't be able to see this galaxy. However, if you're out in the country, you might see it looking like a little cloud, barely visible to the naked eye.
With binoculars, you can resolve a lot more of its cloudy nature, and with a telescope, you can see it as a long, fuzzy blur. Imagine a galaxy with 1 trillion stars that you can't see with the naked eye. Space is scary big.
Now, before the sea monster makes his appearance, we must introduce our hero, Perseus. As the story goes, Perseus that very morning slew the wicked Gorgon Medusa.
She's the one with snakes for hair and turns you to stone with just one look.
Looking at her reflection in his shield, Perseus chopped off her head, then put the head in a bag for safekeeping.
Later that afternoon, as he was flying through the air on his winged sandals with the infamous bag at his side, Perseus happened to spy a young maiden in distress.
Our Princess Andromeda. Now we're facing east at 10 p.m. and Perseus appears on the scene. You can find him as a squiggle of stars below Andromeda's feet.
The sea monster, a constellation named Cetus, is just rising in the east-southeast. I think his stars look like a recliner chair.
That doesn't seem so scary.
Anyway, Perseus yells to Andromeda, "Close your eyes." Then he closes his eyes, reaches into the bag and pulls out Medusa's severed head, shows it to the sea monster, who takes one look at it and poof, turns to stone.
Perseus saves the day. Wow, what a starry story. A king, a queen, a prince, a princess, 2 monsters, and oops, we forgot the flying horse.
Oh yeah, Pegasus was supposedly born from this epic battle. As Perseus held out Medusa's head, this is kind of gross now, some of her blood fell into the water and turned magically into Pegasus the flying horse.
Oh, come on, that's too weird.
Agreed, but that's the kind of imagination we're dealing with when we learn about the constellations and when you keep looking up.
Out along the coast tomorrow, we've got gales fading into small crafts as you head north, and light winds for Lynn Canal, then small craft advisories for Stevens Passage, southeast 40 for Clarence Strait with 11-foot seas. And the outlook for Saturday, those winds come down to 25 knots there with 7-foot seas. Small craft advisories here on the south coast, well, they'll be southeast, and then east at 30 for the central coast, falling back to 20 knots. Up north, Lynn Canal, Glacier Bay, northerly winds 20 knots, probably some higher gusts, but seas only 4 feet. Prince William Sound, north 15, and that extends down into the North Gulf Coast, but small crafts turn into gales for the Barren Islands and about 30 knots there across Kodiak Island to Shelikof Strait, as well as Kamishak Bay, and then north 20 for Cook Inlet. Saturday, you'll see a pretty good increase here for Cook Inlet, especially south of the Forelands, with small craft advisories the entire way. Into the Barrens here, northwest 30, maybe 35 knots early on. 40-knot winds down across the Barren Islands and the east side of Kodiak Island with 9 to 11-foot seas. North Gulf Coast, small craft advisories, northerlies 25 to 30. Prince William Sound, 25 knots, mostly from the north. And Bristol Bay, north winds at 25, and that same wind pattern right down the north side of the Alaska Peninsula. Lighter winds here from Cape Sarachev to Castle Cape, and then a stiff northwest 30 knots there on up towards Sitkinak. And for Saturday, that actually developed into a gale, northwest 35, seas 11 feet, Castle Cape out to Cape Sarachev, north to northeast at 20 knots, and Bristol Bay, small craft advisories, northerlies at 25. And for the Fox Islands tomorrow, northeast 15 to 25, strongest on the north side, small craft advisories into the central Aleutians, and then from about Adak on west, gales are flying with 12 to 15-foot seas. And the gales continue and become more southerly for the first day of the weekend here, with from the areas Adak to Atka, southeast 30 knots, and then those diminish as you head toward the Fox Islands, where they fall down to about 20 to 25 out of the southeast with 6 to 7-foot seas. Along the southwest coast, actually from St. Lawrence Island all the way down, pretty uniform wind pattern both direction and wind speed, 20 knots, northeast 15, really laid down there for the Pribilofs, northeast 20 for St. Matthew Island. And the first day of the weekend, a little more variable here along the coast, south of Nunivak Island, light northeast winds, north of the island, south 20, and then westerlies for St. Lawrence Island. Gales coming in, again, that strong front coming eastward here, so from the Pribilofs on up, look for southeast winds 35 knots. And again, that would come up to 35 here late in the afternoon, or maybe holding off until Saturday evening for the Pribilofs. And for the Arctic coast there, central on east, westerlies 10 to 20 knots, northwest 20 here for the western coast. And then from Cape Beaufort all the way down to the Bering Strait, northwest 25, which is good for small craft advisories. But those lighten up all westerly now. All these zones, winds west, 15 knots here for the west side. And from the central coast to demarcation point, 20 knots with 7 to 8 foot seas. For tonight, again, system down here keeps it wet off the southeast coast and windy. Less of that up to the north, drying out pretty good from the North Gulf Coast, but this narrow band of slow-moving snow could lay down 1 to 3 inches here in areas. Of course, mountainous terrain see a little more, most areas a little less, but cutting off significantly here as higher pressure begins to push across the Bering Sea. And then tomorrow that area shifts eastward into the Copper River Basin up to the north there, across the 40-mile country into maybe the central Tanana Valley. Areas of snow skiffing by the north slope and the Arctic coast. That's all really light. And high pressure or weakening front pushing across the central Aleutians. And then that big storm the next day, that pretty good front, strong front here again, bringing the gale force winds late Pribilofs on north, on back down to the south. High pressure makes for light winds.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Support comes from the University of Alaska College Savings Plan, helping you and your child save for college every step of the way, from diapers to diploma. More information at uacollegesavings.com.